The 80,000 betrothal gift money given by my mother-in-law was an empty card. I went to confront my boyfriend, but was reprimanded by him. I was watching when my mother was depositing money. I'm afraid your family used the money, and then bit back and said my family didn't give it. Right? I immediately called the police. Hello. Someone has stolen and swiped the money in my card. I want to report it. The day before the wedding, my mother bought a red wooden box. She planned to take out all my betrothal gift money and bring it with me when the groom's family comes to pick me up tomorrow. But 20 minutes after she went out, she suddenly called me. Anna, why is this betrothal gift card an empty card? There is not a penny in the card. I was stunned for a moment and then asked, no way. Mom, did you take the wrong card? When Mick gave me the card, he repeatedly told me to keep the card well. That posture was as if there were hundreds of thousands in it. How could it be an empty card? There is only one card in the drawer. It's impossible to take the wrong one. My mother hesitated for a moment on the phone and said in a low voice, do you think Mick gave us an empty card at the beginning? My heart skipped a beat. At the beginning, Mick and I had many conflicts over the betrothal gift. The 80,000 finally given was also taken out by his family after years of frugality and tightening their belts and gritting their teeth. Logically speaking, it's not impossible to give an empty card. I turned around and called Mick to ask about this matter. Unexpectedly, he suddenly jumped up and shouted angrily, what nonsense! When my mother was depositing the betrothal gift money, I was watching. Could it be that your mother took the money in the card and gave it to your younger brother, and then turned around and said our family didn't give it? Hearing his angry tone didn't seem to be faked. I could only ask in a more euphemistic way, is it possible that your mother took the wrong card at the beginning? Impossible. He immediately denied it without thinking and then angrily yelled at me. I tell you, Anna, you must bring back double the amount that my mother gave tomorrow. If you don't bring it back, we're done. And you must return the betrothal gift money intact. Don't think about using an empty card to deal with me. I, Mick, will never marry a woman who helps her younger brother at all costs. I thought to myself, it can't be. My younger brother is much more promising than me. My family doesn't lack this little money. How could my mother give this money to my younger brother? Thinking this way, I still called my mother to ask her. As expected, my mother denied it on the phone. My younger brother doesn't even have a girlfriend now. Even if he had one, my mother would have prepared the money for his marriage long ago. There is no way she would touch my little betrothal gift money. Unable to figure it out, I simply put on a coat and went to the bank. The bank staff took it very seriously and immediately called a staff member to take us to the back office to check the transaction records. This check stunned me. The transaction records printed out were a blank sheet of paper. Even if I were stupid, I understood what was going on in an instant. My mother was stunned, and then angry and annoyed. Call Mick right now and ask him what's going on. I didn't speak. Let my hand drop powerlessly. And suddenly didn't want to contact him anymore. I had been very serious about marrying him and was also working hard for our future small family. But I'm not love-struck. From the moment I saw the transaction records in the bank's back office, a thought suddenly arose in me. Does a person have to get married in this life? Even if I get married, I have already foreseen my future through that blank piece of paper. A mess. Full of complaints. And sleeping in different dreams. I can't think of anything else except these. So, after being silent for a long time, I asked my mother, do you think this marriage is still necessary? Then I took out my mobile phone and dialed the police call. Hello, 110? I want to report a crime. The money in my card has been stolen and swiped. Please help investigate. The staff on the other end of the phone told us to wait for a moment. They will arrive as soon as possible. After hanging up the phone, I suddenly lost strength. I squatted on the ground powerlessly again and covered my face with my hand. In fact, I should have thought that this betrothal gift money wouldn't be given so smoothly. When the two families were discussing marriage, my mother proposed 100. 0 yuan as the betrothal gift money. Mick's mother exploded at once. 100. 0 yuan. How long would it take me to earn back this 100? 0 yuan by farming. You city people really talk without thinking about others. In the past, people all wanted to have sons. Now it seems that it's better to have daughters. Make a fortune by asking for betrothal gift money, and lead the whole family to a well-off life. The words were very unpleasant. My mother's face didn't look good after hearing them. But she still forced a smile and explained, "Our family doesn't want this money either. On the wedding day, Anna will bring it back together. Moreover, if you give 100 yuan as betrothal gift, our family will also give 100 yuan as dowry. We won't let you suffer a loss." Who knew that as soon as Mick's mother heard this, she became even more sarcastic and shouted, "Bring it back? What a nice thing to say. Bring it back for whom to use? This money will still be put in Anna's pocket. Will she take it out and give us a penny? We are all family. We are all family." The atmosphere was a bit awkward. My father quickly stood up to smooth things over. "If you need it, Anna will definitely take it out without hesitation." After my father said this, their family agreed. After several people whispered and discussed for a while, they agreed to the 100 yuan betrothal gift money. But within a few days, Mick started looking at cars. He looked at cars online after work and took me to the store on weekends. The prices of several cars he liked were exactly 200 yuan. At first I didn't understand. After all, he didn't even have a house. Why was he looking at cars? But when I saw the price, I immediately understood everything. His mother called me again. "Now Xiao Bin has taken a fancy to a car, and our family can't come up with so much money all at once. Well, you can pay in advance first. Just consider it as we borrowed from you. When our family's savings certificate matures, I will give it to you along with the betrothal gift money." I refused without thinking. "Auntie, I haven't worked for long and my salary is not high. I can't come up with so much money either. Besides, it doesn't matter if we don't buy a car. Mick and I work quite close. We can take the bus in the future." "Taking the bus is so tiring," Mick's mother exclaimed on the phone. "No money? If you don't have money, you can borrow it from your mother first. We will pay you back. You can ask for the dower money your mother prepared for you first. If you have a baby in the future, having a car will be much more convenient." I knew his mother's intention. After making some excuses, I hung up the phone. But who knew that a few days later, his mother directly ordered the car at the store. Then she took a photo of the contract and sent it to me. "Hurry up. We are all waiting for you to pay." I was simply stunned. This is clearly treating me as an ATM. I was very angry and immediately called Mick to question him about what was going on. Originally, when Mick and I got married, my family provided the wedding house. Now they are thinking about using my little dower money to buy a car. Does it mean I'm spending my own money to marry myself? I angrily scolded him a few words and said, "If your family insists on buying this car, let's break up." Who knew that Mick suddenly became anxious? "Baby, don't worry. My mother just wants us to save time on the way to work. She will give you the money later." She didn't think so much. I didn't think of these things before either. But since baby cares so much, I'll go and tell my mother. "We won't buy this car." He turned around and scolded his mother severely and asked his mother to apologize to me. I was also embarrassed to really ask an elder to apologize. Seeing that he was completely on my side on this matter, and didn't seem to be faking it, I let this matter pass. After that incident, Mick returned to his meticulous appearance towards me as before. He even took the initiative to take me to choose the hotel for the wedding. I thought that if there were no accidents, the two of us should start preparing for the wedding smoothly. Originally, it was said that his mother would give me the card for the betrothal gift money at the engagement ceremony. But on the day before the engagement, Mick's father suddenly called me. "Anna, Uncle is a bit embarrassed to say this to you, But Mick's cousin is also going to buy a house recently. The family is still short of 100 Zaro yuan. His uncle means to ask us to help. Uncle is really in a dilemma. After thinking about it, I have to come to you with a thick skin. Can uncle borrow your betrothal gift money first to help his uncle? When they have money, or when our savings certificate matures. In about 2 years. We will return it to you with interest. Uncle knows that you are sensible, kind and filial. At this time, I guess only you can help me with this favor. I was so annoyed that I asked him in return, doesn't his uncle know that Mick is going to get engaged and pay the betrothal gift tomorrow? Can buying a house be more urgent than getting engaged? He was stunned for a moment and stammered, this is just because he happened to see a set. The seller is urging urgently. His uncle asked several families to chip in. If we don't help, it means we don't consider him as family. Uncle really considers you as family. The betrothal gift money will definitely be made up later. But it's hard to find a good house. Mick also sent a message about his uncle's matter. Anna, don't you know what kind of people my parents are? What they promised you will definitely be given to you. At that time, not only will they give it to you, but they will also give it to you with interest. You can also take this opportunity to earn a good reputation in our family. I thought about it all night and gave a solution. You give me the betrothal gift money. I will lend it to your uncle. Then let him write me an IOU. At that time, I won't be afraid that he won't pay it back. As soon as the message was sent, Mick immediately objected. This is too ugly. My aunt and uncle didn't ask for an IOU either. We are all family. Borrowing money and asking for an IOU. Why are you so troublesome? I suppressed my anger and sneered. Then no one in your aunt and uncle's family is getting married recently either. Your family only gives 100 yuan for the wedding. But there are one thing after another. If it's really difficult, let's not get married for the time being. No. Mick became anxious at once. We will give it. Who can be more important than my baby? He didn't send any more messages. Probably the family was discussing again. After waiting for a long time, he said, baby, is 80 yuan betrothal gift money okay? We really did our best. It's really hard to not lend a little to my uncle. We plan to give him 20 yuan to send him away. The 20 yuan betrothal gift money that is missing will definitely be given to you as soon as my parents have more money. Mick, will keep my word. And then he asked me carefully, then our family is short of 20 yuan betrothal gift money. Your family's 100 yuan our money, should not be less. Right? I stared at my phone, and my mind was in a mess. At that time, there were less than 20 hours left before the engagement banquet when the betrothal gift was to be paid. I was extremely confused. On the one hand, I wasn't sure if this engagement banquet should continue. After all, can a family that can repeatedly target the betrothal gift money really be a good family to marry into? On the other hand, I still had a glimmer of hope for Mick. What if his family was really forced and had no choice? Plus, all the relatives had been notified. At this time, if the engagement banquet was suddenly cancelled, if others asked about the reason and found out it was for just 20 yuan, what would the relatives think of me? I rubbed my temples. I was indescribably tired. While I was struggling, my mother knocked on the door and came in. She sighed and said, I heard your video call just now. 2,000 less is 2,000 less. Our family doesn't care about this. But after you bring back these 180 yuan, you must keep a good eye on it. If his family is really up to no good, they will definitely target this money again. I didn't speak and looked at my mother helplessly. My mother sat down beside me, stroked my hair, and said again, but in my experience, this family is definitely not easy to deal with. So after thinking about it, the wedding can be held as usual. But don't get the marriage certificate first. If we notice something wrong, we can withdraw. In this way, At least the loss can be minimized and we won't end up losing both people and money. We're calling here. I was interrupted by the footsteps of several people. The police officer came over. After asking about what had happened, they retrieved the background records from the staff. At this moment, the phone rang again. Mick's deliberately embarrassed voice sounded in my ear. Baby, I just told my mom about this. Now she is worried that your mom has swallowed the money. Well, you can transfer the betrothal gift money to me now. I'll bring it to you again when I come to pick you up tomorrow. How about it? Holding the phone, a chill rose up my spine. At this time, he was still acting with me. Originally, I thought his family was trying to get something for nothing. After all this time, it turns out that they are actually playing a game of sowing discord and relying on marriage to earn another sum. Seeing that I didn't speak, Mick thought I was wavering. He continued affectionately, "Believe me, you are an outsider to your mom. We are the real family. Hurry up and ask your mom to transfer the money first. If she really doesn't want to take out the money tomorrow, we will suffer a great loss." I was angry and furious. Biting my teeth, I said into the phone, "Screw your mom. You can talk to the police yourself." He was stunned and then panicked. "Why are you swearing?" "No, did you call the police?" "Why did you call the police?" "You should ask your mom first. What if your mom used the money?" At this point, he still refused to admit it. I was so angry that I felt dizzy. "Since you didn't give the wrong card at the beginning, then this money must have been stolen and swiped. So I called the police." "Just right. Come here." The investigation results came out quickly. Mick's family did give an empty card at the beginning. Hearing the investigation results, my mother's eyes turned red immediately. She trembled and murmured like she was in a daze. How could this happen? How could they do such a thing? Even though Mick had calculated about the betrothal gift money in various ways before, she never expected that Mick's family had never planned to give this money at all. In the end, the card that she had carefully put away in the drawer for me was actually empty. What a joke. Mick also arrived at this time. For the investigation results, he confessed without hesitation. But because there was no loss involved, the police mediated a few words and left. Looking at Mick's obsequious appearance, my eyes suddenly turned cold. Seeing those staff members leave, I stepped forward and threw that empty card hard at his face. Immediately, there was a red mark on his skin. He jumped up in pain and cursed. "Anna, are you crazy? Why call the police for such a small matter? You can just tell me." "Not call the police? Don't call the police and wait for you to bite back and say that my family stole it?" I was so angry that I was shaking all over. My voice unconsciously had a crying tone. "Mick, are you shameless? If you don't want to give it, you can say it clearly. Is it necessary to act one way on the surface and another way behind?" He was speechless. After a pause, he suddenly retorted loudly, "Didn't you say that betrothal gift is just an attitude? Then does it matter if there is money in the card? Your family asked for 80 yuan. We immediately agreed. This is our attitude. Why? We gave you the attitude. But now you are disgusted?" Seeing his unreasonable appearance, I was really furious. I thought that when two people walked towards marriage, they should support each other. When one person is in trouble, the other person will help. But he is good. Our family has made concessions again and again. In return, his family has become even more excessive. They even shamelessly coveted my things. When my anger accumulated to a certain extent, I wanted to hit him. I rushed up in 3 or 2 steps and kicked him hard in the crotch. Then I slapped him several times in the face. "Attitude? I'll let you see my attitude." He was unprepared and fell heavily to the ground. He covered his crotch and cried out in pain. Seeing that he was struggling to get up, I kicked him to the ground again. I picked up an umbrella at the entrance of the bank and hit his head and face. I used all my strength with each hit. His face turned purple like a pig's liver. Lying on the ground, he shouted angrily, "Security! Security. But the security guards had all witnessed that scene just now. Several people gathered together, showing their big teeth and smiling happily at him. No one came forward. I couldn't bear it anymore. I slapped him again, while kicking his crotch. I cursed, "Attitude. Attitude your mom." At first, you knew to ask for dowry shamelessly. But when it came to betrothal gift, it became an empty card. An empty card is your attitude. Then fists are my attitude. Marrying you empty-handed. Do you think it's okay? He didn't speak. Sweat was dripping on his forehead. He stared at me coldly. I stared back without showing weakness. I stepped on his mouth firmly with one foot and asked him coldly, "Are you satisfied with my attitude? Speak." He kept screaming because he was being stepped on. At first, he was still muttering and cursing. In the end, I hit him on the head with an umbrella. He fainted directly. I took out my phone at this time and took a photo of his miserable appearance. Then I sent it to my circle of friends and various groups along with the police report receipt. Sorry everyone. Due to the calculation of a scumbag, tomorrow's wedding is cancelled. I am deeply sorry for the inconvenience caused. As soon as the message was sent, various groups immediately exploded. Before I had time to look, Mick at my feet woke up groaning at this time. He covered his face that was swollen like a pig. Stared at me with resentment. Other people's dowry is 2 or 300,000 yuan. And they also give a car as dowry. Our family only gives 100,000 yuan. And you still have so many demands. Your best friend Rachel. The car she gave as dowry is worth 500,000 yuan. He shamelessly spouted nonsense. I was almost amused by him. Rachel's boyfriend added Rachel's name to the wedding house. What about you? Don't mention adding names. You don't even have a house. How can you have the nerve to say such words? He raised his neck and said shamelessly, "Then is he as handsome as me?" I was almost amused. It's true that I liked him first when we were in college. After all, he was 1.86 meters tall at that time. Fair-skinned and handsome. He looked like an 18th tier little star. But after graduating, because he was busy being handsome, falling in love, surfing in internet cafes, and playing games in college, he didn't learn much knowledge. But he failed many courses. Finally, the school gave him a chance for a makeup exam. He barely graduated. Later, when looking for a job and during company interviews, he didn't know anything when asked. Finally, because of his good looks, he found a sales job. He was very popular in college. But now, except for his face, he is good for nothing. Why should I spend a lot of money on a person who is good-looking but useless? Moreover, it wasn't me who forced him to be with me back then. A trace of disgust appeared at the corner of his mouth. I was originally thinking of giving you a Van Cleef Arpels necklace after marriage. But you are so materialistic. Now I don't want to give it anymore. I frowned in disgust. At this time, he was still thinking about making empty promises. I lowered my head and glanced at his face infuriately. The last bit of nostalgia in my heart was also completely worn away by him. After arriving home, I called all my relatives at home and told them about this. I also replied to each messages one by one. Everyone expressed sympathy and anger and scolded the scumbag one after another. They also sighed that it was good to find out about this before the wedding day and stop the loss in time. I called the hotel staff and asked to cancel the banquet. I also recognized that the deposit paid before could not be refunded. The person on the other end expressed understanding. Out of humanitarianness, they returned half of the deposit. This matter was considered over. I forwarded the screenshot of the cancelled wedding to Mick. At first, he begged desperately. In the end, he started cursing. I directly blocked him. I thought this matter was over. But who knew that before dawn the next day, I was awakened by the knocking on the door outside. Mick was pounding on the door, excitedly shouting and yelling at the door. "Anna, open the door. I'm here to pick you up." I took a look through the peephole. Oh my. Mick had hairspray on his head. He was wearing a suit. There was a flower on his chest. His leather shoes were shiny. There were also two groomsmen in suits behind him. It was clearly in a posture of picking up the bride. Even though I had seen many shameless people, my parents were so angry that their faces turned dark greenish blue due to anger at this time. Seeing that there was no movement inside, he simply took out a loudspeaker and shouted at the door, "Anna! Anna! Open the door. I'm here to marry you today." The two people behind him cooperated and let out strange laughter. As soon as he shouted, the neighbors on both sides opened their doors one after another and poked their heads out to look over here. Mick was even more excited. He chuckled twice, turned up the volume of the loudspeaker to the maximum and shouted again, "Anna! Open the door. Let me in first. After I go in, you can do whatever you want to me." The corridor was filled with echoes. My mother was so scared that her face turned pale and her hands were shaking. She trembled and said, "Why are his family like this? It's too excessive. Isn't this forced buying and selling?" I was so angry that my lungs were about to explode. I simply gritted my teeth and said through the door, "Can you go away? Wasn't what I said yesterday clear enough? We're done. Don't say angry words." "Anna." He in a roguelike manner banged on the door. "Let me in and I'll explain it clearly to you." Seeing that he was impervious to persuasion, I simply called the security guard and planned to ask someone to drive them out. At this time, Mick suddenly gave an order outside the door, "Demolish." In an instant, the sound of an electric drill rang out at the door. 1 minute later, the door crashed to the ground. Not to mention me. Even my parents were stunned at this time. With the door gone, Mick's big shameless face appeared in front of us in an instant. Looking past him, I could finally see the people behind him clearly. The groomsman was holding an electric saw and an electric drill in his hand. There was also a locksmith following him. Behind him was Mick's mother. I was so angry that I was shaking. I raised my hand and slapped him. How could there be such a brazen person in this world? I angrily pointed at him and scolded, "Are you looking for a beating? Do you still want to be beaten? Hey!" Hearing about being beaten, he suddenly showed the report in his hand. "This is what you beat me yesterday. I'm injured down there. If you don't want me to sue you, you should obediently marry me. Marry me, and this matter will be over. Otherwise, you will go to jail." His mother followed behind, her eyebrows raised and saliva flying as she shouted, "Yes! If you don't marry my son, you will wait to go to jail." "Let me see." I snatched the report, took pictures of it quickly, and threw it back to him. "Oh, a fracture in the lower body?" I looked at Mick's mother as if watching the excitement. "Auntie, if you don't want everyone to know that Mick is useless, then get out of here. Otherwise, I'll send this report everywhere." His mother's face immediately turned pale. Then she stuck out her neck and said, "Whether you marry or not can be discussed again. But our relatives are all here. You pay for the transportation and accommodation fees, and I'll take Binzai away immediately." Mick also chimed in, "The wedding was cancelled by you on an impulse yesterday. Our relatives from our hometown set off a few days ago. They don't know that you cancelled the wedding. It's not excessive for you to bear this loss, right?" Seeing that many neighbors had gathered around, in order to quickly get Mick and his family to leave, I simply shook my phone and said perfunctorily, "Okay. I have already informed the hotel manager for the wedding banquet. You can go directly." After getting permission, several people left happily. Taking advantage of this time, I quickly called the hotel manager. The hotel manager is a friend of my father. Originally, the wedding banquet was cancelled temporarily. They wouldn't rent out the hall so quickly. The manager had already heard about my encounter with the scumbag. Now, after hearing my plan, he repeatedly promised that he would arrange it properly and also promised to arrange a live broadcast for me. So when all of Mick's relatives arrived, the lights in the banquet hall immediately went out. Then, the hotel's large screen began to scroll and play our chat records, as well as yesterday's police report receipt. And the video of him confessing to giving an empty card at the bank yesterday. There is also a PPT of up to 50 pages that I rushed out into hours. Didn't you say that the relatives didn't know? Okay. I want them to see the complete version. As soon as the video was played, the expressions of everyone present were different for a moment. It was truly wonderful. Mick's mother screamed in horror. Who is playing the video? Turn it off. Turn it off quickly. Mick's face turned livid. He rushed forward to unplug it. But several security guards stopped him. No matter how much he made a fuss, he couldn't get close to the power source. The reason is that they were afraid that he would damage the hotel's public equipment. His relatives were eating melons excitedly. Elder aunt, didn't you say that Mick was doing very well in the city before? Why is he always cheating little girls' money? That's right. You said before that the little girl was climbing up to your Mick. So it was all lies. This is your fault. If you're not doing well, then you're not doing well. Why pretend to be rich? We are all relatives and won't laugh at you. Fake. It's all fake. Mick shouted like a madman. It's that bitch. She regretted the marriage on an impulse and slandered me. I'm going to tear her apart. But before he could step out of the banquet hall door, several policemen walked in. Are you Mick? Someone reported that you intentionally damaged other people's property. Come with us. What did I damage? Mick looked terrified. You sawed off someone's door. I'm causing trouble at the wedding. Is that also illegal? Causing trouble at the wedding? Causing trouble to the point of demolishing the door? The police uncle snorted. The person who reported the crime even provided the surveillance video at the door. Be honest and come with us quickly. Originally, the relatives below were mocking them with an attitude of eating melons. After all, Mick's mother loves to show off her wealth in the village. There are many people in the village who don't like them. But when the police came, it was like a thunderbolt from the blue. It directly made the clueless onlookers explode. What? Sawed off someone's door? Could it be a burglary? Oh my god. How did Benzai end up like this? Wouldn't he be sentenced to several decades directly? It's really unlucky. We encountered this when attending a wedding banquet. Don't end up implicating us in the end. Mick was detained for 10 days because he sawed off my door. His relatives had originally thought that they would come from a long distance to attend a wedding banquet and play around here for a few days by the way. Before, Mick's mother also spread everywhere in the village that my family would cover all the food and accommodation. Now, the wedding is cancelled and Mick is also taken away. Even though these people were full of complaints, they had to buy tickets and go back first. But in the village, those who attended the wedding banquet began to exaggerate what they saw to those who didn't attend. Some said that Mick's family was doing well before. But it was all bragging. In fact, it wasn't. Some said that Mick in the city specializes in burglary. Even the air conditioner that Mick's family installed last month was stolen. Others said that Mick was sentenced to death and will be executed by shooting soon. Originally, his family had a college student and settled down in the city. Wherever they went in the village, they were envied. Since the whole village saw Mick being taken away with their own eyes, now wherever Mick's family goes, they are met with contemptuous looks. They also knew that they had lost face and were so ashamed that they didn't even dare to raise their heads. Mick was released soon. He was unshaven, with dark circles under his eyes, and his clothes were worn crookedly on his body. He looked haggard like a tramp. He blocked me downstairs and asked angrily with his eyes wide open, "Why did you deceive me? You deceived us to go there even though the hotel was refunded. How can I be a person in the future?" I looked at him strangely. It was you who insisted on taking your relatives to the hotel. People were also brought by you. What does it have to do with me? He was stunned for a moment, and then reached out angrily. Then where's the money? Give it to me. I paid for the hotel. Why should I give it to you? Are you crazy about money? He was ashamed and angry. You offended my relatives. You should apologize and give me the money. If you go with me to apologize to my mother in a few days, I won't pursue it. He reached out to grab my phone, but I dodged it. I conveniently gave him a shoulder throw and directly dislocated his arm. Since we tore our faces apart, I was always afraid that he would come to find trouble for me after he was released from prison. So I simply found a master and learned some quick capture techniques for a few days. It was more than enough to deal with a weakling like him. Don't say. It was actually put to use so quickly. He fell down like a dog eating shit. Then he got up with difficulty, probably knowing that he couldn't beat me in a fight. He covered his arm and stood a few steps away from me. Then he stared at me viciously. Anna, you are so cruel. Wait for me. I will definitely deal with you sooner or later. I shrugged infuriately. Come on. I am extremely powerful now. Early the next morning, the community group suddenly exploded. Someone sent me a video. Anna. Look, is this you? I opened it and it was actually Mick's video of picking up the bride that morning. At first glance, it was deliberately filmed. The video angle was very tricky and made Mick look very affectionate. The person holding the electric saw behind him was not filmed at all. In the video, his eyes were red and he was crying. Open the door. Anna. Open the door. I'm here to marry you. The video caption, on the day of the groom picking up the bride demands $1 million betrothal gift. If not given, she won't open the door. At the end of the video, the community name is also located. The hot comments below are clearly deliberately manipulated. I was there at that time. The bride's family originally asked for 300 Sara yuan as betrothal gift. But on the day of picking up the bride, they suddenly changed their minds and asked for $1 million. If not given, they won't leave. The bride's family has a younger brother. Those who understand will understand. The groom even knelt down and begged their family. But the bride's mother just wouldn't open the door. That look is really disgusting. A money-worshipping little fairy. Because the video was extremely topical, it rushed to the hot search within a few hours. For a while, I was pushed to the forefront. There was a flood of abuse under the video. Even the local hot media platforms forwarded the video, along with several big verses. They all stood up and criticized the Skyge betrothal gift. Because the video was hot enough, someone dug out our family's door number based on the location, and the fire hydrant accidentally filmed in the corridor. Along the way, I was human fleshed out for my name and contact information. Soon, I received countless abusive text messages and many strange calls. All were scolding me, one more vulgar than the other. Red paint was sprayed on the unit door of our community. Some indignant netizens threw rotten vegetables and stinky eggs at our door. There were even those who directly sent wreaths and chrysanthemums. The whole corridor was stinky. My parents were so scared that they didn't dare to go out for several days. Several of my friends couldn't stand it and commented under the video to help me clarify. They also posted a video alone to explain the real situation that day. But after all, they were outnumbered and the other side bought hot searches again. No matter how we posted, the popularity couldn't go up. I was extremely anxious. Just when I was in a state of desperation, I had a sudden inspiration and simply forwarded the video to the school group. I was also an active person in school back then. I took over many activities and had a good popularity. There were at least tens of thousands of people in the school groups in my phone. As soon as the video was forwarded, the groups exploded. Damn. Senior, is the person in the video you? He was like this in college. He often ate and drank for free. When we talked about him, he would play the victim. We blocked him as soon as we graduated. That year, he saw your parents' work and annual income from the counselor, and then asked me for your contact information. After a while, several people privately messaged me. One was a journalist. One was a lawyer. And there was also a big V who specialized in self-media. Several people were all influential figures in school back then and naturally knew each other. They made an appointment to meet me on the same day. The meeting place was a coffee shop near my home. After not seeing each other for many years, we sat down and exchanged a few pleasantries before getting to the point. I recounted from beginning to end how Mick's family had targeted my betrothal gift money. How they pressured it from 100 yuan to 80 yuan, and finally gave an empty card. I also provided the police report receipt. At first, they bit back and said that we had used the betrothal gift money and asked us to return it to them. Later, I called the police. The police confirmed that they did give an empty card. I also showed the chat records and screenshots of requesting the cancellation of the wedding banquet. It was clearly stated at that time that the wedding was cancelled. The wedding deposit was paid by us. There was nothing wrong with us taking it back. But the next day, they still came to pick up the bride. They even demolished our door and even asked us to bear the transportation and accommodation expenses of their relatives. I can't understand. Our family provided the wedding house. We also bore the cost of the banquet. We gave 100 yuan as dowry. Is it excessive for his family to just give 80 yuan as betrothal gift? Several people were all stunned. So shameless? This is definitely slander and defamation. Yes. I slowly took a sip of coffee and said bitterly. Originally, I thought that his family's conditions were not good. We could contribute more. But I didn't expect his family to be so shameless. The friend who was a journalist nodded and understood. It's all filmed. Wait for our good news. Several people were very fast. That night, the online public opinion had a shocking reversal. Because that Big V classmate had a team operating behind him. They made the video as exciting as a TV series. It suddenly became extremely popular. Coupled with the forwarding of the Big V and the interview video released by the journalist friend, the plot immediately had a reversal. For a while, there was a flood of abuse online. Because Mick showed his face in the original video. So as soon as my video was released, even his friends knew about it. His former friends came to me one after another to complain. Several people even pulled a group. I couldn't stand him long ago. He always asks me to have a meal when he has nothing to do. Anyway, he doesn't spend money. I can't tear my face. I really was a sucker for several years. He said he was going to visit my house before. But after he left, my mother's gold necklace and gold ring were gone. I couldn't directly ask him because I couldn't lose face. Now thinking about it, it should be him. Damn, he stole my sister's cosmetics. I was distressed for a long time. If it were gold, I would definitely call the police. My relative is from their village. I forwarded the video to them and let them see their true colors. This was not the end. The next day, I sued him in court for the crime of slander and defamation with a lawsuit. Because this matter was big enough, the judgment came down quickly. He was sentenced to 1 year in prison. A company that originally hired him as a salesperson because of his good image now also fired him because of his negative image. I heard that his mother went to the company to make a fuss and demanded Denwon compensation. As a result, the company leader ignored her at all and directly asked the security guard to drive her out. She squatted at the company's gate and was scolded by the onlookers around. She was so ashamed and annoyed that she realized how big this matter was and it almost became known to everyone. Suddenly, she didn't have the face to make a fuss anymore and went back to her hometown dejectedly. She thought that by being a turtle for a few days in the village and waiting for this matter to pass, she could settle scores with me again. But her family was also in a mess at this time. Although Mick's younger brother is only 25 years old, he also has a girlfriend. They plan to get married early next year. As a result, his girlfriend learned about their family's affairs and heard people in the village add fuel to the fire and talk nonsense. She was afraid that Mick's younger brother would also give an empty card as betrothal gift money. She immediately broke up. Mick's older sister was already engaged and the other party also gave a lot of betrothal gift money. But their village is so small. As soon as this matter came out, his sisters-in-laws were pointed at wherever they went. They felt ashamed. No matter how much his sister cried and begged, they all called off the engagement. Originally, when people in the village mentioned their family, they all said that several of his siblings had all found partners and didn't need their parents to worry at all. Now, not only have they all become leftover men and women, but they have also become the laughingstock of the whole village. His sister couldn't hold her head up and simply packed her things and went to the city to work. As a result, she met a swindler on the way. Not only did she lose her travel expenses, but she also owed online loans. She could only go back to the village dejectedly. The online lending company called their home from time to time. Seeing that their family didn't pay back the money, they started to call their relatives and neighbors. The neighbors in the village began to avoid their family. The village chief was also troubled by this. He did ideological work for his mother and asked her to pay back the money. His mother could only grit her teeth and take out the only remaining money at home to pay off the debt. In the past, they were the most enviable family in the village. But now, there are sounds of smashing and crying in their home every day. Their reputation in the village is completely ruined. His mother deeply knew that if this continued, it would be impossible for the siblings in the family to find partners. Their days in the village would also be difficult. Several people discussed for a day and a night. Then they packed their things and moved away overnight. No one knew where they went. After a year, Mick was released from prison. He stood downstairs at my house unshaven and with empty eyes. Anna, I know I was wrong. I regret it. If you still want me, I will take you to get the marriage certificate tomorrow. Okay? I jumped away in disgust and picked up a big broom beside me and hit him, just out of prison and coming to my house. Do you want me to be unlucky with you? Go away. Don't let me see you again. But he bit his lip and his eyes immediately turned red. I looked for a job and no one wanted me. I wanted to go back to the village and stay for a few days. But the people in the village also laughed at me. My mom said. He suddenly choked up. My mom said that she asked me to come to you. She said that you are soft-hearted and will definitely want me. He knelt down with a thud, covered his face, and cried loudly. Anna, for the sake of our many years of relationship, forgive me, okay? I will definitely work hard to earn money and save betrothal gift money for you. You name a number. I will definitely not calculate this time. The more he said, the more sad he became. In the end, he buried his head and cried so much that he couldn't speak. I sneered and didn't even bother to lift my eyelids. Why should I want you? Why should I want you? Do I want your status as a former prisoner or your poverty-stricken family behind you? Mick, you are not worthy of me long ago. Previously, it was because you were good to me and we had so many years of relationship. If I'm married, I would marry. But what about you? You are insatiable, duplicitous, and petty. Why do you think I would still want you? He was stunned for a moment and cried even louder. I looked at him with disgust. I called the security guard and then left without looking back. I heard about what happened later from a friend of his. Mick went to the neighboring city and met up with his parents. The family of 5 squeezed into a 1-bedroom rental house. Mick found a job as a gatekeeper at an amusement park. His mother washed dishes in a restaurant in the park. Because Mick was still somewhat good-looking, his mother went to the park's matchmaking corner to find a match for him whenever she had free time. At first, his mother required the other party to be beautiful, have a house and a car, and have a good job. But the girls' families either disliked Mick for being a former prisoner or disliked his poor job. After looking for a year, they found nothing. His mother gradually recognized the reality. No matter how old the other party was or how ugly they looked, as long as they had a house, his mother introduced them all to Mick. Mick was unwilling at first, but later he resigned himself to his fate. After all, he didn't want to squeeze in a 20-square-meter house with his family all day. He had to walk a long way to go to the toilet, and he could only take a bath once every few days. Finally, he found a woman in her 60s. The aunt's husband had passed away 10 years ago. She had been lonely for many years and wanted to find someone to relieve her boredom when she was old. She lived in a 4-bedroom house. Mick made up his mind that as long as he outlived her, this house would be his. But the aunt was not easy to deal with either. She asked Mick for 288 yuan as betrothal gift. If not given, she wouldn't marry. After Mick went back, he discussed with his mother all night and gritted his teeth. 288 yuan in exchange for a four-bedroom and to living room house. Worth it. He immediately borrowed usury and paid the betrothal gift money. He thought that after getting married, the aunt's money would be his sooner or later. At that time, he would say some nice words and ask her to hand over her savings. This usury could be paid off quickly. But who knew that after the betrothal gift was sent, the aunt couldn't be contacted? Only after reporting to the police did they know that the aunt was an old swindler. The ID card was fake. The big four-bedroom house was also rented by her. This matter became very big and even made it to their local news. The swindler has not been caught for the time being. Mick is being pressed hard by usury. They have no choice but to mortgage their hometown house to pay off the debt first. Because of greed, they ended up with nothing. In the future, several people will be busy paying off debts and will never be able to turn things around. Hearing this, I said, they deserve it, and couldn't help sighing. Fortunately, I saw through the true colors of his family on the day before the wedding. Otherwise, the rest of my life could only be deeply stuck in the quagmire and unable to get out.